Now let's draw a simple room using the principles of one-point perspective. Picture yourself standing in a room and looking at the back wall. In order to start the drawing, we need to draw a rectangle that represents the dimensions of that back wall. So everybody, draw a rectangle in the middle of your paper that looks something like this. Use your right angle, line it up with the corner of your paper, and make sure that your line is perfectly horizontal. Then line up your ruler with the horizontal line, like this, and draw two vertical lines going this way let's make sure that's straight, and like that. And now we have our rectangle. Okay, so once again, this rectangle represents the back wall. It is the furthest thing we see in our perspective drawing. The next step is to figure out where our horizon line is relative to the back wall. The problem is, we're indoors. We can't see horizon. Maybe there's a window, that's possible, but for right now there isn't. So how do we figure out where the horizon line is based on this back wall? Well, here's the most important thing to know. The horizon line and the level of your eye is exactly the same. Horizon equals eye level. So, if let's say I'm pressed up against the wall, I'm in some kind of police lineup, and I'm standing right here. Oh, I drew myself way too short here. I'm standing right here against the wall. If my eye level is right here, the horizon line will be exactly in the same spot. So if this wall is, let's say, 12 feet high, 10 feet high, and if I'm 5'11", then my eye level is going to be approximately in the middle of this wall. So the next step is to indicate your horizon line by drawing a horizontal line in the middle of your rectangle. Draw your horizon line all the way from one side of the page to the other side of the page. Like this. And then label it horizon line, and also label it eye level. Horizon line and the level of your eyes are exactly the same. So if I'm seated, my horizon line would drop. If I'm at a seated position like this, right, seated in a chair, my horizon line would be here. If I'm standing on a ladder, the horizon line would be higher. Horizon line changes depending on where you are in the room. Get a sip of water. Okay. So, step one, draw the back wall. Make sure your verticals and horizontals are straight. Step two, based on the height of the wall, determine where your horizon line is. That's the second step. Step three, place your vanishing point. In one-point perspective, your vanishing point is going to be somewhere in the middle of the paper on the horizon line. Once you have a point here, label it vanishing point. Like this. Okay, now it's time to get your orthogonal lines, the lines that represent the corners of the ceiling and the corners of the floor. How does this work? Very simply, any orthogonal line, any line that goes back in space, needs to be drawn using your vanishing point. So here's how this works. Line up either your ruler or your right angle. Let's use our ruler for right now. Line up your ruler with your vanishing point and one of the corners of your room. So let's say the bottom right at this point. Start here and draw a line going out. Do the same thing on the top corner. Line up your ruler with the vanishing point, the top right corner, make sure it's perfectly lined up, draw a line going out. Let's do the same thing on that side. From the top corner to the vanishing point, draw a line going out. Now, your drawing will probably not look exactly like mine because I didn't give you the exact dimensions of the wall. Some of you may have drawn the wall a little more square. Some of you guys may have drawn the wall a little bit wider. Maybe not all of you have placed your horizon line in exactly the same spot. The angles are going to change depending on where your vanishing point is, depending on the dimensions of the rectangle you've drawn. The most important thing is getting the principle. So once again, to draw the bottom corner here, I line up my ruler with a vanishing point, the bottom left corner of the wall, and draw a line going out. Alright, we instantly have depth. So as you can see, we have some depiction of the ceiling, the right wall, the left wall, the floor. Okay, let's add some additional features to this using one-point perspective. This room feels a little bit claustrophobic. Let's put a doorway into our back wall. That's a pretty simple task. I'm going to use my right angle, line it up with the bottom of my paper, and draw a rectangle that represents a doorway. So here's one side, here's another side, let's draw the top of the doorway. Again, every time I'm drawing a vertical or horizontal line, I'm using my right angle. Do not eyeball this. Don't try to freehand this. Right? This is more technical drawing than it is freehand. Okay, we've got something that looks like a door, but it's a little bit flat. We don't have any sense of depth. The doorway looks closed. It still feels claustrophobic. Let's let a little bit of air into this room. Let's draw a hallway. How do we do that? Well, we're going to line up our ruler with the top left corner here. And to draw depth, we're going to line up our ruler with our vanishing point and draw a line going back this way and back this way. You guys see that we have a sense of a corridor here, right? The lines here and the lines here are both receding to the vanishing point, giving the impression that this hallway is continuing at the same angle as the room. Okay, but let's say I don't want a hallway. Let's say I want to represent the thickness of the doorway. That's pretty easy too. The first thing I do is set the thickness of the wall here. So I can make it really thick if I want to. Let's say these are the walls of the castle. Or I can make it a little bit thinner. That's going to be up to you. You decide how thick to make the wall. Let's say I make the wall this thick. So that represents the inside of the doorway. And then the beauty of perspective is that it automatically sets the thickness of the top of the doorway and the bottom of the doorway. So where my vertical line intersects my orthogonal line, here and here, all I need to do is draw two horizontal lines. Here's a horizontal line. Here's the bottom of my doorway. Here's another horizontal line. Here's the top of my doorway. So now, instead of a hallway, we still have a sense of a hallway here. We have the thickness of a doorway. Okay, so we have a door, but now, let's say I want to place another door of the same height on this side of my room, on the right side. So the trick is, and the complication is, this door on this wall is going to be closer than the door here. It's going to appear larger. In order to figure out how much larger, we need to use a trick that's called projection. Here's how projection works. I'm going to use a different colored pen. Hopefully this is going to be clear. But here's how projection works. I'm going to take the height of the doorway and project it along a horizontal to the right corner of the room. So now I know exactly how tall the door would be if it's right here. Then I'm going to project it orthogonally this way. So now I'm going to line up my ruler with the vanishing point, this intersection here, and draw a line going out. Now I know that if my door is placed anywhere in the room, it's going to get larger and larger between these two lines. So the next step is to simply decide where to place my door. Let's place it right about here, like this. We're going to draw a vertical line. Let's line up my ruler with the bottom of the paper. Here's a vertical line. And now I'm going to decide how thick to make the door. So this is an estimate. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to set the widths in the second part of this tutorial. But for right now, just estimate the width like this. Let's get the top of the doorway. Here's the top of my doorway. Alright, so now we have a door of exactly the same height on a different wall. The technique I used is called projection. So once again, I took the height of my doorway and I projected the height of the door to the corner of the room. Then I used my vanishing point to project the height of the door going out this way.